Hello, this is Marianne Esau for EDL 853, Module 8 Case Study. So to summarize our case study, we have Susan Green, who is a first-year special ed teacher in a rural school. She teaches in a cooperative, and so we know that they share resources with 16 schools, and so it can kind of be a little bit difficult at times. We know that she replaced a 25-year teaching veteran who was really highly thought of, and so Susan's kind of in a position where she's just brand new and she doesn't quite know what she's doing yet, but she's working on it. She's getting through. We know that she has a student, Carl, on her caseload that has a behavior disorder. We know that Carl's disability is completely behavioral at this point and not intellectual, and so he does really well with the classwork. It's just a matter of his behaviors. We know that his teacher in the gen ed class, Mrs. Taylor, is really fed up with him in class and would like Carl to be removed. Carl is becoming more and more violent towards her, and she's afraid that someone is going to get hurt. Carl has sharpened a pencil and threw it at her, and also has thrown rocks at people from the bus. So category 1, we need to figure out what we know, what we need to know, and identify our problem. So we know that Susan Green is a brand new teacher. We know that the school is a cooperative, so they share resources with many other schools. We also know that they have an assistant superintendent, but that person's also a teacher, so they have their own caseload and their own work to do. But we know that the superintendent comes in once a week to kind of oversee things. Carl's parents are going through a really rough divorce. Mom is working a lot, and it seems that Carl's dad might be a little bit more absent at this point. Carl is becoming more agitated and aggressive towards people, and we know that the behavior plan, which included incentives, is not working currently. We need to know what other resources the school has for him. With a cooperative, we know that you can share resources, and so there could be other classroom types that are available. Who knows, they could have another third grade class available. We don't know that either. I want to know what else has changed in Carl's life besides the divorce. For all we know, he doesn't like his current teacher or some students in the classroom, or he just wants attention. And so I would like to know what else has changed. I want to know what other strategies have been tried, because it sounds like his teacher just kind of went to Susan and just kind of was really fed up, but it didn't sound like there was any conversation before that. So I want to know what else Mrs. Taylor has tried. And I always like to know what the function of the behavior is. Why is he doing what he's doing? So the problem to me has several layers. The first problem is that Mrs. Taylor is really frustrated and feels that Carl's going to hurt someone. And she wants him out of her classroom, and I think she has it in her mind that he needs to go. And to me, it seems like she's kind of given up on Carl a little bit, and that to me is a problem in itself. We know that Carl's LRE, his least restrictive environment, academically is the classroom, the gen ed classroom, but his behavioral LRE is not really aligning with where he's currently placed, and so we know that that's a problem too. And we also know that the resources and options could be very limited in his cooperative. His school is very small, so I would assume that there's no ED-BD room. I would assume that there's probably one third grade class, and it could be that could be a problem too. So category 2, what is my plan of action and strategies. So first thing I would do, I would just meet with Carl and figure out what's going on. Hopefully at this point in the year, I would have a good rapport with Carl, and hopefully he would feel comfortable talking to me about it, and just kind of, I just want to see why he's doing what he's doing. I would also have him see a counselor or social worker to get him to maybe talk through some of his issues with home and divorce, and again, what he's doing. I would support Susan's intervention plan as the administrator. I think that's important to support your teachers, and she would be willing to pull him out of his class and have him do more resource. At this point, that's not his LRE, so there's kind of that struggle there, but we have to at least try at this point. And I would also do an FBA. Again, I want to see why he's doing what he's doing, and maybe see there again could be a person in the classroom that he doesn't like, or maybe he has a crush on someone and he wants to impress them with his behaviors. We don't know. I would also meet with Carl's family for more strategies, just to kind of hopefully get on the same page. There was an IEP held, but Mom was just kind of dismissive, and I would like to sit down when she had time to figure out what the next steps are. And I would also meet with his classmates, generally, like just the whole class, on appropriate behaviors and expectations. You guys are in 3rd grade now. This is what I expect of you, and just kind of go from there. So the strategies, again, I would pull Carl from class to talk to him. I would have a counselor or social worker meet with us, and maybe the 3 of us can sit down and talk it through. I would try to make sure that the male staff member was available if necessary, just to escort Carl. Carl's a bigger kid, so, maybe having a smaller female staff member around is a little bit tricky. I would do the FBA, or the Functional Behavioral Assessment, when I'm in Mrs. Taylor's class, so I would just go in and observe Carl and see, again, why he's doing what he's doing. I would also encourage Mrs. Green to communicate regularly with Carl's parents. I know it's very difficult at times when they don't call you back right away, but I think that she needs to make sure that she is keeping them in the loop and that they have a voice in what goes on. And I would also look for placements throughout the cooperative, or, at the very least, a para support in the classroom. Okay, so category 3, resolve the issues based on success for all. All the students, including Carl, need to feel safe in their classroom. He's thrown pencils, he's thrown rocks. We need to know that all the students are safe, and so that is the first priority. Carl has the right to be in his least restrictive environment, so he needs to academically be in the classroom he's placed in, so we need to look for the LRE behaviorally, and maybe how can we support him in his LRE. So again, that could be a para at this point. Carl was throwing rocks and a pencil, and he could hurt someone. Those are examples from the case study. Carl seems to be more combative and aggressive as the year has progressed, and Carl's parents seem to have a volatile relationship that is probably affecting him. And honestly, he's probably seeing their volatility and maybe imitating that a little bit. Just my opinion. Category 4. So what was I thinking, feeling, and valuing? I honestly feel bad for Carl. I tend to have a lot of empathy for kids with behavior disorders because it's not something that they can control. He is going through a hard time, and I genuinely believe that his teacher seems to be really just fed up with him, and he doesn't need that right now. In my opinion, he needs someone that's going to empathize with him and someone who's going to help him through his parents' divorce, because that's a lot to take on. And then when you're in 3rd grade, it's exponentially more difficult, in my opinion. I was thinking that I've worked for a cooperative, and resources are hard to come by at times. And so, the option of maybe busing him to another building is an option in a co-op, but it just depends. It sounds like this co-op is really big, and so we don't know what his resources are, and so that could be very difficult for everyone. I felt bad for Mrs. Taylor, too, because she is frustrated, and Mrs. Green, because I feel like she was kind of backed into a corner. Mrs. Taylor was saying, oh, come on, please help me right now, and, Mrs. Green's just like, I'm, a brand new teacher and just trying to figure out her job. So that was kind of frustrating for me. As, a new teacher, I think that would be really frustrating. And in terms of value, I value the safety and stability for all students, Carl included. So the issues that are still unresolved. To me, again, I want to know the form and the function of the behavior. We know the form of the behavior, but I want to know why that's happening. And that's something for me as a SPED teacher that I try to get to the bottom of as much as possible. If you figure out the function of the behavior, it's a lot easier to deal with that behavior. And I want to know what other options are there for Carl. Is there another 3rd grade classroom? We don't know. Is there a way that he can be educated in another building? We don't know. So I think it's important to look at those options for him. And we know that his home life is still in turmoil, so we can't really resolve that as a school, but we can definitely help him through it. Category 5, to reflect on Standard 2, is how do I as an administrator promote academic success for every student? Well, I met one-on-one with Carl, so that helps him out. I also am meeting with family members to again see what issues we can resolve. And I talked with his classmates about appropriate behavior and expectations, so I think that's important as well. In terms of promoting the well-being of every student, I did meet with Carl and set up counseling services, and that can be written in his IEP once, if necessary. And also, I met with all the students on their expectations and behaviors in the classroom. And again, just getting older, you have to realize that you have different expectations than when you're in second grade, for example. And then, how do I as an administrator enhance instructional capacity? I supported Mrs. Green's plan, so I think being able to pull him out if necessary could be beneficial. However, he could be doing his behaviors just to avoid work, so we don't know yet. I also think looking at other placements is a good option for Carl, and I met with his parents to figure out a plan. So hopefully we can kind of enhance the instructional capacity for all the students, including him, if we kind of get a different placement for him. I think that's it. If you have questions or comments, let me know, and have a good day. Thanks.